and I can take a hacksaw blade and I can just lightly do that. I don't have to reshoe the horse and go through a big old hassle. I'll just run this underneath there, just float that heel a little bit.
So just the width of that hacksaw?
Yeah, that's all it takes. And probably when I get done, I'll just run it back through there one more time. All right. I love using tools that make the job go faster.
Sure.
Thanks. He's broke. I don't know if you can see that. He's broke right through the cornet band there.
When did this horse get this crack?
They just discovered it, from what I understand, this morning.
Is he unsound on it?
He's meant to be pretty sound, I think, on it. One of the barn foremen was mentioning this horse just a few days ago. I was here to work on a different horse, and she was saying, I'm wondering if his feet are bothering him because he's been laying down a lot, more than I normally see him. And about 2 days after that comment, they call me up and he's got a quarter crack. So she's a very, very aware, good foreman here, a good barn manager, was noticing this before it happened. What I do is I run a torch over this a little bit, and it helps actually kind of dehydrate the foot. And a lot of times it'll actually help open that crack up a little bit for me to where I can see it better.
I would imagine you have to be really careful of that corner band though, right?
Yeah, you got to be careful with it. This little flame's, I mean, it's hot enough, but it's you can of course burn one if you leave it there, but I try to keep it moving good.
Okay.
And let's see, what am I going to do here? I'm going to take a little thrush buster and put a dab on here. He's got I know this horse I've worked on before. He's got really, really thin walls. You can see how much, I don't know if you can see that actually, but when I press on that, there's little air bubbles that were moving in there. See that? With the material that I just put the thrush buster in there, you can see little bubbles. See that?
Yeah.
One of the biggest things is when you open these things up, it often doesn't go straight in. It often runs at forward or backward. So you got to make sure you figure out where that's at and get it opened up enough to where if there's any sensitive tissue there, that this isn't going to be squeezing and pressing on it.
What do you look for when you're doing this?
I'm just looking to try to follow that crack, see where I'm finding just little openings in there. I'm trying to follow the material the best I can. The hardest thing about telling somebody how to do this is telling them how much of this to take away, you know? It's really, as you can tell, I don't know if you can see it very well on the camera, but I started out over here by where you can still see the thrush buster. The crack was running back this way, so I'm migrating further and further backward. I'm just hoping to get to the end of the crack going in. I got to be getting pretty close, and if I press on that, I'm getting very, very close to sensitive tissue, but I can. Yeah, I mean it's just paper thin. So I want to be careful not to make this bleed. If I can get by without it bleeding, the better. But I also want to make sure I got, I just don't leave a big gap here to where moisture and crap can just set in behind there, because then my patch is not going to be secure enough to really do a good job. I got to get a reasonably defined separation between the forward and the backward part of this crack for the way that I patch them to really work. One of the things is when you're using laces, a lot of times you're kind of trying to pay attention here. Have a hard time talking and thinking at the same time.
Go ahead and work. We'll do the talking later.
Okay. There you can see. I think I got to the back of it. I feel pretty. All of a sudden, all the tubulas were just really like, kind of just broke open and broke apart. I think that's pretty close to the end of it.
See, this is the old crack here.
Yeah.
That used to be in that one time.
And you want to try to find the bottom of it as well. I keep thinking I've gotten to it's just right here at the hairline, but I keep the further down I go, and you can see down here it's still a little bit of an opening. I know on the cameras it's always harder to see a lot of this stuff. Are you talking? Who do you see down there? I'm going to try to go a little bit further down here. Hey, Bobby. You can kind of tell Sid's been with me a few times on these. He's picking up tools before I'm asking for them. I really enjoy being able to do this with people and working with them. It makes the day go a lot better, a lot more fun. And it's funny, you get to seeing things that the other guy has seen or hasn't seen, and I brought some little 1 ounce pots that I'm going to use today.
Okay.
I didn't know how warm it was going to be around here, so I just brought some slower set stuff than what I normally use. All right, yeah. He's pretty.
Is he sensitive there?
Yeah, I'm right at the sensitive tissue, right in there, and like I said, that hoof wall is very, very thin.
It's a little thicker on other foot. Because you went pretty deep on the other foot.
Yeah. All right. I got my little kit here of all my stuff. I keep them all zipped. Or
Could you just move that old lady thing? Great.
I have all my stuff in these packages. They're pre-sealed, sealed up, keeps them all clean and everything. And I actually owe it to Dave Farley for talking me into actually putting this stuff all together. He was watching me do this, and he said, "You're setting on a product there, Curtis." He says, "The way you do these," he says, "why aren't you selling that as a little kit?" And I never really thought of it. So anyway, I started putting the things together, and we've actually been getting rid of quite a few of them. They're probably going to be in the top left-hand drawer. One of the things to doing this is I try to make this drain as thin as I can, because I'm not using any metal or anything like that as far as wires or anything to add stiffness. I'm just using my cloth and the glue, so there's not a lot of stability there. So I'm trying to make the drain as small as I can, because the bigger the drain is, of course, the more movement it's going to allow. Kind of the idea that I have behind doing these patches is I'm not a big believer in the fact that you're supposed to completely stabilize their feet. I've seen too many times where they put like aluminum plates on them, and the foot gets to moving and binding, and it'll bust that plate open, and it'll almost delaminate the area. I mean, it'll just pull the foot away from the shoe. And so my idea is to recreate the wall, and recreate the wall and its function as well, letting it flex to a certain degree. Yes, I am trying to stabilize it, but this is actually cleaned up pretty good. This has an adhesive backing on it that allows me to put it on. It stays real good. And then use the tape to go around the cornet band here, so that gives me a guideline of where I want my glue, how high. It makes the cleanup a lot easier, so I'm not trying to get all this glue off his cornet band after I'm done. Thanks. Thanks. Okay. Now, I'm gonna just torch a little bit in this on either side of this here. That'll just help the glue adhere well.
You want some of this in there?
Yeah, I'm gonna put a little bit of that in there. I'm just gonna clean up this weak spot he's got in here in his foot. We may as well be fixing that while we're at this. Let me just have my little Dremel on. Who are you talking to, horse?
I'm just talking. I don't even know he's around.
me see my torch. Just trying to, while we're working on them, I'm just going to try to make sure everything else looks okay. If there's anything else to patch and fix up, I may as well be doing it all at the same time. This here looks like it's all pretty much at the surface. Come on. Come on, Bobby. Come on. Flies biting you, Bobby. Come on. I'm gonna do one last one. Last little attempt at floating that heel. Set him down. Yeah, I went quite good. I put the copper sulfate either in the lid or in the little red separating unit, so you can tell how much you get in there. It's hard to put it back once it goes in the glue. This here. Some of these horses that you know are going to be wearing patches for a while, I like to just try to keep the integrity of the hoof wall the best I can, and I'm really a big believer in this copper sulfate in the glue, and I preach it a lot, and it's really rewarding when I see more and more guys using it. I haven't put the accelerant in here yet, so I'm not letting it down. So and this is the cloth that we use, and it's an unusual weave. It's very strong, and puncture resistant, and tear resistant, in no matter different directions. And generally, what I'll do is I'll end up cutting a piece here and folding over like the top ½ inch of it or so, and that way I can double it up at the leading edge up by the cornet band. Usually if these things split on you, that's where they're going to do it at. So I'm just going to cut this right down the middle here. Let's see what we got here. So that's, I don't know if you can see it from over there or not, but I'm going to lay this patch over there like so. Not a big deal. Got gloves.
That's recorded?
Yes.
I think your mic dropped.
Nope, it did. Sorry about that. I probably didn't have anything worth saying anyway. Probably ain't missing.
Better?
You probably didn't miss anything. Now, with the real slow set glue that we got here, a lot of times I can do this all in one go. I don't really recommend doing it, so I probably am not going to do it that way. You got the accelerant there. So, seeing I'm kind of showing how to do it. Put the accelerant in here and get it stirred up. I like to, if you're putting any dye or anything in there as well, I like to stir that up all in here first and then add the accelerant afterwards, so you're not panicking with your time at getting your color all done up. And a lot of times if you put dye in, I like to always get a fresh stick because it seems like whenever I'm doing something critical, an area, I get a big black streak of dye across the area. It seems without fail. So after I've mixed up, I put a fresh stick in to do this. All right. I'm gonna try to do this where you can see it, but I don't get my head knocked in. Now what I'll do is just double check my tape at the top. Really helps have a long, secure bond if it's been wetted properly. And one of the things I like to watch other people do these things, or do different techniques with glue, and like one of the only people I ever see glue shoes on in that respect is being careful about wetting the shoes. Like Scott Morrison, you'll notice he puts the glue on the shoe, and then you'll take some more glue and actually wet the foot, and then put the two of them on together, you know, against each other, the two bits of glue. It's a really good technique to where you know that you got your foot wetted well. So I try to build I don't know, really, of course it varies a little bit on horse to horse, but maybe like a 1/16 of an inch thick patch or layer here. I've had a lot of people say, I can't imagine how those granules of copper sulfate can really make a difference once they're impregnated in the glue. But when you take enough of these things off and you see the difference in the quality of the hoof wall underneath them, you start to become a bit more of a believer in it. And there we go. We'll just let that dry up. It's a little cooled for us down here. It'll probably take a few minutes. I would, if I were doing this just on my own, I'd probably go ahead and just wet the material with what I have left over and do it, but I'm not gonna kind of go there because, like I said, that's, yeah. Actually, I'm gonna reuse this glove. I'll need another glue. That's the only thing I'll need.
Yeah, for the other foot.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got it right there.
Okay. Double check this here. All right.
You got everything?
I think so. Might use this old glove to lay over the top of it. I'll wait for the glue to come.
How long have you been using this technique?
Oh gosh, quite a while. You know, I've been. I guess I kind of over the years I kind of got to doing it this way more and more because I always seem like I never am usually the first guy they call, and it's often right down at the last minute where a horse is about ready to run. They're getting close to running, and it's got to be done like now. And I started doing these drains. I had a situation where I was brought in to work on one that had a patch on already, and the horse had been dried out the typical normal way where they you know, take several days drying the quarter out or the crack out, and they built a solid patch over the foot. Well, anyway, I got called to come look at this thing. It wasn't doing well. The horse is non-weight bearing, and you know, I asked them how long ago was he done, and they says, well, a little over a week ago. And I said, well, how long has he been non-weight bearing? And they said, oh, I don't know, a few days, 4 or 5 days maybe. They said, and I said, why didn't you take the patch off? They said, well, we paid a lot of money to have that put on. You know, we were just hoping he'd get better. Well, the horse ended up getting infected into the bone and ended up being destroyed. And it was really an ugly situation, and I mean, it was bad. One of the things having that experience and kind of living through all the anxiety of who was blaming who, and I told myself I wasn't going to ever let myself get in that situation. So whenever I do a patch, it has a drain, and if there's an infection there, at least it has an opportunity to be able to drain out. I've patched a lot of times quarters that look dry and that shouldn't be a problem. I still put a drain in them. Just it's kind of a safety net, because you're not always responsible for what people end up doing down the road. That farrier that had done the patch before me had no idea that the horse was not doing well. So how could he be blamed? I mean, it should have been removed, and it was just it was bad communication, and it just kept getting worse. Is what happened, and the horse suffered for it. So it's just a good, safe way of doing these. It's really, I mean, when you get done watching this, a lot of people say, I can't believe that'll be enough to actually do it. I make a living doing it, and I get when you do this type of work, the only way you get called back is results. You can't, if you don't have results, you don't get phone calls, and so it's just like I said, it's a little different way, and it works well, and it's easy to remove and redo on a monthly basis. I kind of tell everybody, because of the nature of the patch and not trying to really overstabilize the area, I tell everybody that you want to redo this patch. You want to redo this patch pretty much on the shoeing cycle. So I'm going to do two things here. I'm going to wet the material good, both sides. Okay. Then I'm going to take a little bit of this, and I'm going to actually smear on there. And again, I'm just going to wet the area that we're working on. Put a little bit more on there.
Is this a fast?
No, it's slow set. I'd be panicking already.
Can you do the fast with the slow?
I'm sorry?
Can you put the fast on top of the slow?
Yeah, you can. Now I'm folding over the top part of that patch. Make sure that your cloth doesn't go over the bottom side of your drain. I probably got my hands right in the way where you can't see what I'm doing here, unfortunately. Now I just kind of keep pressing this glue out of the material and pressing it down to the old patch that's on there. Or the first layer. You can see the bottom of the drain right there. And I'm going to try to get as much of this glue away from the cornet band here, right underneath the tape as I can. Now I'll take a little bit of this glue and just basically I'm going to make try to make a small layer over the top of this, almost really only to protect the cloth is all this layer here is for.
Well, you first time you've seen it?
Yes, yeah. I've patched up dozens of them, but not like this. These are screws. I usually lace mine.
Now what I'll do is I'll let this start to just get like a little bit tacky, and it'll make it a little bit easier to smooth out on the surface. Just makes your cleanup a little bit easier. It's almost there. Thanks. Seeing we're on television, I'll put a clean glove on. I'm really pathetic. I usually have stuff scattered everywhere. I'm not a very organized kind of guy.
You're being watched.
Yeah, I'm being watched, so I'm trying to be a little better than normal. That's only makes it worse usually. Okay, again, I'm going to just do what I can to kind of clean that away from the cornet band. You can see how it's starting to really smooth out nice. And then you can just take your glove off and you can lay it over the top of that if you want to. I don't think it's really necessary to cover these. A lot of people want to wrap them all up, and I don't generally, but in this case I'll just do that, and it'll help speed up the cure here a little bit. Sometimes when you don't put something over it, the only real difference I see is sometimes just the surface of it will be a little bit more tacky feeling at first, but it toughens right up. And I'm usually pretty I like to clean my patches up pretty good and make them look pretty decent. And did pretty good. I don't see any glue on the horse. It's unusual. Should film me more often. All right.
You need another glue for the foot?
I don't know if we'll touch that up or not. What do you think? Should we?
I don't think it doesn't go anywhere, does it?
It looks good. I mean, it didn't look very good when I started, but once I cleaned,
it didn't look like it was there.
right. But when I cleaned it up, it looks pretty good actually. Just kind of some dried bit that was kind of hanging over the edge where that cornet band
You want to
grew
dust it up
down.
at all while you're there?
The only thing I might do is I might just float that heel a little bit, and I think we just leave it alone. That other side, as I don't know if we got that on tape earlier. This horse has been a terrible repeat offender. I was actually one of the first horses I ever worked with you on, wasn't it, Sid? And when I just got to know Sid, and he asked me if I'd come and work on a horse for him. The horse had 3 patches on already and had just popped his 4th. And so he was in pretty bad shape, and we worked on him that winter. We had 3 blacksmiths working on him, and we ended up getting the horse really doing well. He ended up, we had Ron Rubin and Sid Bundy and myself all got together one day and worked on him and kind of discussed the ideas on how to balance the horse, and we did really well. He did all year, and he's down here in Florida on this going down here. It's been kind of hard on a lot of these horses, and he's popping them away again. So, but I think we're doing all right. We only have 1 on each foot, so 2's better than 4. I don't know.
Watch your drain.
All right. So anyway, now we just cut the tape, and we'll pull this off, and you gotta get rid of that. Now, this here is the coolest part of the whole deal. Is I found this out by accident. I was working on a horse in New York one day, and I was trying to do it. Oh shoot, I just broke the piece off. I was working on a horse up there, and anyway, can you see that coming out? Slides right out of there. Hello? Sorry about that. But anyway, this is the neatest thing. I used to make these drains all the time with Play-Doh, and I was working on a horse, and it was really, the horse had been tranked a couple times already, and it was just being a nightmare to work on, and I couldn't find the Play-Doh, and I knew I wasn't going to get the vet there to trank him again, and I'm desperate looking. And this is a material that I actually use for liners on my shoes to keep sole pressure, relieve sole pressure. Well, I always have these little chunks all over the place, all over my box, If you take a picture of my box, there's a few of them on the side there. And I grabbed a piece off there and stuck in there over the sensitive tissue, and I said that's better than glue getting on the sensitive tissue. I gotta patch this thing now. I did it, and when I got done, you could see how it just slides right out of there. It was the damnedest thing. I had no idea it was going to work that well. What I'm going to do is actually give me the syringe, Sid. There should be right there on the top. What I'm going to do is I give these little syringes to the clients. It's part of the kit that I use or sell, and I ask them to put this in and every day after they're done training the horse and flush it with water and get the dirt out. I ask them not to go in the top because a lot of times that's sensitive tissue up around the cornet band. Last thing I want them doing is jamming something in there. So I have them flush it from the bottom, and then what I do is afterward, a lot of times I just use Thrush Buster, and I put a drop or two in down the hole. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just use the syringe to put it in the top here so it doesn't spill accidentally all down the side, but you can see how it ran right out the bottom. And you got a perfect drain that goes down through the crack. And you can treat and medicate this horse. He can stand hot water and Epsom salt. You can do whatever you need to help soothe and calm that crack down. It's still stabilized, and the horse can go right back to work. Literally, as soon as this is cleaned up, he could go to the ring. And that's the key to this process, is just being able to get the horse right back to work. He's able to heal up while he's wearing the patch, and you're able to keep medicating and take care of it. I'll dress this up and clean it up a little nicer and here in a minute, and then you can kind of see the finished product when we're done here. What do you think? How old are you? I told him, I said, I'm 25. And they looked at me like, oh my God, you know? It's like, I guess it is hard on you. But I think this here is something that I think really helps a lot too. And with my shoe, the shoe's actually able to a lot of times wear down if this horse is really loading this area. But with a metal platform, of course, that can't happen. And it's actually one of the, I had a situation here recently where I had a veterinarian came in and looked at how I'd patched a horse like this and had my shoes on, and they said, I have no idea what this blacksmith's thought process is on fixing a quarter crack like this. And the owner, thank God, said, well, I've been listening to you and my trainer for the past year, and I'm still here. And this guy gets 30 days before I fire him. You're next. So anyway, the last week of the shoeing cycle, the horse had 2 wins in a second, and he won the hack over here. And but it's still, I still am learning how to talk to or to describe what I haven't been good enough at explaining what people should see or expect to see at the end of the shoeing cycle. The other day, the same horse is still winning, doing really well here, and I mean, we're in Wellington, and this is like the, you know, this is show horse capital of the world. If you win here, you got a horse. And horse been winning, and the groom said, oh, these shoes really look pretty worn out. Well, the owner panicked and scratched the horse, and you know, it was like, and then of course they didn't ask me about it until later. And I said, this horse is probably most likely the most comfortable that he'll be. Instead of me putting new shoes on, this is be the safest that I would want him to actually go out there. And it's been a chronic quarter crack for a long time, and he's doing well. But you know, it's one of the things that I guess I just get to where I work so often for the same people for a long time that I just don't maybe you got to learn to show the people what to expect, and maybe have pictures. And I'm bad about taking pictures. I usually walk in on situations that I'm scratching my head trying to figure out what I'm going to do to fix it, not worry about how I'm going to show you what I fixed later down the road. So it's something I should try to do better at keeping records and having some pictures and stuff. But I'm gonna go get my little Dremel and or my little thing to clean this up a little bit easier. I had a funny situation here. I don't know, it's probably been a couple of months ago. Had this white Cadillac SUV chasing me down the road, and I could tell they were trying to stop me, and finally I got someplace where I was able to pull over and see what they wanted. It was a woman I had done a quarter crack for a month or two before, and she said, I just had to come and tell you, hadn't seen you. I wanted to tell you that patch worked. And I said, you look so surprised. She said, I was. She said, when I was watching you do it, I've seen all these other people do all these elaborate things, and they don't, you know, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. And she said, when you did this simple little patch and you left my barn after that little bit of time, I was just like, I was having a hard time believing this is going to be anything. Oops. I've always been a Dremel fan, but Sid's got a little Milwaukee that she's been so busy I haven't dared to ask her to look. Everybody here is laughing because they know my wife. She's the meanest 100-pounder you'll ever meet.
I find that hard to believe.
No. You wait. You'll get there one of these days. You hang around long enough, she'll be mad at you too. Everybody that meets us always says when they first meet us, they say,
Wait a minute, we're on tape.
oh, hell God, I forgot. Everybody that ends up meeting us in the first, they say, that poor Diane, married to that miserable old blacksmith, smelly, curses all the time. After they get to know us well, they all say, that poor Curtis. A friend of mine says he's going to name a horse that, poor Curtis.
We're going to start treating this horse with Corona, John. I was just talking to Chrissy.
Uh-huh.
Got the Corona, that started up a little bit.
Now, I'm just going to clean that up. I'm going to get a different bit on there and just clean up the edge up there by the cornet band just a little bit more. I don't want that to get hard and rigid and aggravate them at all. I actually don't know what happened to that because I think it fell out when I was it's been going too smooth. I'm bound to lose something. You found it? All right, well done. Here, let me trade you. Just goes.
You want to put him more in?
I will when we're done. One of the things is you're never too never done so many of these you can't learn something. The other day I was working with a young fella, Ben Crawford, and he was going on about how he loves my technique on how I do my glue-ons and.
Let me have that.
All right. What's that?
Burn this
Oh,
off.
okay, go ahead.
This looks different than mine.
Actually, here.
Oh.
There we go. It's a new one. I haven't taken the safety off of it yet.
Oh.
That'll get rid of all the glue and junk on it. It'll help clean it up a
How you
little
do
bit.
that? How you do that?
Actually, what it's got is a little safety on the back here.
Oh.
You pull that down,
Oh,
then it goes in.
Oh, here.
But what I do is I always get rid of that when I'm
Yeah, yeah.
on mine because.
Let me just do it this way. Just put it on there and turn it on.
Okay. Okay. But anyway, so he asked me if I'd come watch him do a horse, and he wanted my approval, which was really nice. I really enjoyed working with guys, and I often end up recommending people for work a lot more than I try to do it myself. So I do all the manufacturing myself. So I end up, when I got somebody I know really does a good job, I'm often recommending the work out instead of trying to do it myself. So anyway, where I was going with this is when he got done doing the horse, he grabbed some super glue and he put it around the edges. And I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Oh, I put that around the edges." And he said it keeps the moisture from being able to wick in around the edges of the glue, and it doesn't separate it so much or so easily. And I've been doing it myself now for a little while, and I think he's right. I've only done a few thousand of these, and I had a young guy tell me that, and it's working really good. Actually, can I have another glove out there, Sid, if there is one? And so you just never know when and where you'll learn something else, and that's one of the benefits to getting to work with a lot of other farriers. So I just go right around the outside edge and take and rub around it, and I think he's right. I've been really kind of paying attention to this since I started, and I've been really liking what I'm seeing, and
That's a new wrinkle.
yeah, new one for me too. I haven't been doing it very long, and I really like it.
Oh, where your syringe is.
And we lost the syringe already,
I don't know where. It's gotta be around there.
so
I don't see it over here.
no, I handed it back to you. I think it might be in the bottom of my shoeing box.
It is.
So okay, we'll just do this one last time. I put this in there. I got my hands shake too much. I can't get it in there. Just draw it back a little bit. And go in the top. And I don't know if you can see the bottom or not. Oops. There, it went out the bottom. You got it? And that's it. And
You'll leave that here anyway.
yeah, I'm gonna leave that with them. Leave the syringe with them, and they can do that every day. And that's our patch done.
Okay.
I don't know, have you heard how she is?
She put her job down in John.